Today's open, I want to talk about business because we hear that all the time in sports, right? It's a business, it's a business, it's a business. You say it when there are decisions that you don't like. And then you say it when it's a decision that you like, but you know other people aren't going to like, right? You can just go back to the default that it's a business, which we've always understood. And it's really not that enlightening whenever anybody says it, although it's treated as such. It's a business when they cut you in the NFL, right? NFL guy who doesn't understand NFL contracts, even though he plays in the NFL, he'll sign a 6-year deal where all the money is in the first 3 years. There's zero cap hit for the most part once the fourth year starts, so they can cut you anyway. And then the player will be like, I had 3 years left of my deal. I'm like, no, you didn't. And it happens all the time. They'll say, well, it's a business. As soon as you're not good anymore, they're going to cut you. No shit. That's kind of the way life works, right? Pro sports are awesome. To be a pro athlete would be incredible. I think we all understand that. We all love sports. You're listening to this podcast. I've spent 20 plus years doing this, and I liked sports before I got into this, right? What are the benefits? You get to delay being an adult. You have buddies. You make millions of dollars. If you're really good, everybody loves you. Women seem to like pro athletes. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's confirmed by science, but I feel pretty good about that position. The downside, trades actually do suck. If you went to bed one night, kids are in school, wake up the next day, all of a sudden it's on the bottom line of ESPN that you're moving halfway across the country for a team that stinks in a city that you've never been to. And now your kids are like, what are we supposed to do? And your wife's mad. The money is really good. The good parts outweigh the bad parts, but that part of it sucks too. And then let's also remember there are millions and millions of people now with phones armed, right? Armed millions of people that just hate you because they don't want you to succeed and get in the way of the thing that they're rooting for. So there are some negative sides to this. And by the way, we're seeing more and more players now are just letting it fly against people in the stands. This is another thing that we'll see because it's happening more and more. And it's going to keep happening. And I'm not even saying it's necessarily wrong. I'm just saying it's a new reality where athletes are like, yeah, I'm actually just going to start going off on people and saying stuff and maybe even go into the stands. We'll see what happens there. Different topic, though. So back to the business part of this. I don't like ever making everyday life comparisons to the elite of the elite. This is why these guys get paid so much, because they are so special and we care about it so much, right? I mean, they are worth more than almost all of us are, right? I'm okay with it. I've accepted it. But the one similarity that I think is very true, again, is that there will be a time when someone goes, you know what, Russillo, people kind of tuned you out. No, I hope that doesn't happen. I feel pretty good about the run, but it's probably going to happen at some point, right? I remember when I first got started, an old guy who's no longer with us saying to me, there are not many happy endings in this business. But then I thought about it a little bit more instead of being scared off going, there's probably not many happy endings in many businesses. And in sports, the real part that's difficult is that ending is a lot sooner than for the rest of us that pursue different careers. But I would argue right now that when we keep talking about it being a business, that we might be in the golden age of bad business partners. Because that's a question I would ask a bunch of NBA guys right now, right? If it's a business, then how good of a business partner are you? And between Kyrie, eliminated last night, Ben Simmons, eliminated sort of last year, I'll leave out some of the other guys, maybe for this exercise, Harden, which we've been over. And I'm not even going to include Russell Westbrook in this because, let's face it, I mean, he's at least playing in games, not any of the playoff ones. But the hits, right? And I don't want to turn this into 10 minutes of dumping on some of the players. I guess it's surprising to me that so many real people kept defending some of these guys. Where you're like, why are you still defending Kyrie Irving? Like, do you not get that this isn't great for a basketball team? It hasn't been great for a basketball team for a really long time. Like, why are you still defending Ben Simmons? And clearly, by the way, nationally, just everybody decided, I no longer care about having any sympathy whatsoever for what Ben Simmons is going through because he just didn't play basketball. And I'm not saying necessarily those people were wrong. I also thought it was kind of crazy that people stuck up for him in a way that was so dismissive of any of this being calculated, which clearly part of this was calculated because the grievance was always coming, which we covered before on Bill's podcast about that. But if you were to look at, because I'm not going to worry about Harden at this point, too. If he blows a 3-0 lead in Philadelphia with Doc Rivers, I mean, on top of the 3-1 blown leads on Doc's resume, I won't even know what to do with that. There's some Toronto breakdown stuff we could do with Van Vliet not even playing, but when he's on the floor defensively, they haven't been very good. Maybe it's because he's hurt. Siakam's responded after being all sorts of criticized. I need to focus my energy back out west for Chris Paul, hopefully not losing to a 1-8 seed, even if he's losing a top 5 MVP finisher in Devin Booker. All right. So if we focus on Kyrie and Simmons, These are terrible business partners. I mean, as bad as it gets in team sports. I don't really know how to even, like, this isn't even a debate anymore. And the reason I bring this up is because Kyrie's quote last night that everybody was like, what are you talking about? He was asked about his future. And he said, quote, when I say I'm here with Kev, meaning Durant, not James, I think that really entails us managing this franchise together alongside Joe and Sean. That's Joe Tsai, the owner, and Sean Marks, the president of operations. Just our group of family members that we have in our locker room and our organization. So when you think about that, like, it's just us managing this franchise. And again, Kyrie's going to present this thing like it's going to be a little bit more sophisticated in his answer. He's not going to be as straightforward. And then you go like, should you actually re-sign him? Now the question is probably stupid because you're probably just going to do it, especially if Durant wants him to stay, which by all indications, Durant does want him to stay. So that's kind of your answer, right? Letting big time talent walk, even if it's complicated, never seems to be the option. But we'll get to that a little bit more here. If you go by this, and Simmons had this tweet this morning, Kyrie, since he left LeBron, in the playoffs, he's played 22 games and he's missed 22 games. He's played in 50% of available playoff games since he left LeBron in Cleveland. So that's going back to 17-18 in Boston because he joined the Celtics in August of 17. He's missed half the games. Regular season games, he's missed 164 the last 5 years. And to be totally honest from a basketball standpoint, and I know with Ramadan, maybe that's part of the calculation of how he looked after game one. He looks extremely passive. So it'd be one thing if he played all the time. And when he played, he looked more like the game one guy and not the game 2, 3, and 4 guy. But then you go, and he misses all the games? Like, is this really somebody that we want to get into business with? Ben Simmons. He's played 275 games since he was the number 1 overall pick in 2016. 275 games. That's 19th most in the draft class, again, where he was the number 1 pick. I mean, we could get to the 3-point jokes. I'll use one. He has more nicknames, 8 on Basketball Reference. Simo the Savage, Young Socialite, Fresh Prince, Peacemaker, Benny, the Yank, Big Ben, the Wizard of Oz. More nicknames than made threes in his entire fucking career. 5. He wanted out of Philadelphia. He got his way. The PR team and the arguments used about why he was justified never made any sense. And I think anybody that bought them were either pushing that agenda or just wanted him to be good at basketball again. Because at one point you wanted it to work out because you rooted for the Sixers, or now you want it to work out because you actually root for the Nets. I think one of the most disappointing parts about the Ben Simmons storyline here is that if you're the Nets, you're like, wait, what happened? We traded for this guy. And I don't know if they did or didn't think he was ever going to play. Like the main goal seemed to be to stay in the news cycle throughout the entire series, even though maybe he was never going to play. So every day we were getting updates based on his camp because I don't think it was coming from the team. I don't think this was some strategy where the team was like, let's keep the Celtics, guessing. Let's use this. This is competitive advantage. We'll be like, we have no idea if Simmons is coming back or not. So we'll just keep floating this over and over again. The reason I don't think it was the team, because I don't think it was the team. And I also think that's why you had Nash so frustrated towards the end being like, I don't actually think he's going to play. So this stuff kept getting out for some other reason, which again, I always think these things are a complete waste of time. What was the reasoning? Oh, we talked about Ben Simmons for another day or two. Well, it didn't help Ben Simmons. And then he wasn't even in the building for game 4. So again, I'd ask, what kind of business partner are you? If you can't even bother to be played and your number one goal seems to just be to continue to be talked about while everybody's wondering why you can't play basketball. So when we were doing the pod on Sunday night, Bill said, I think we'll see a pivot away from this. And this is the part that I'm always interested in, whether it's basketball or anything. Like, hey, you start researching things, be like, hey, do you hear what this company's doing? Oh, that'll work. Oh, that's a stupid idea. I think we all do that at a certain point. If you're interested in this stuff, you're trying to educate yourself on things or investing in things, you're like, well, what is that? What is that company trying to do? Oh, that's stupid. And then that's the next big thing because you're just old and outdated and you don't want to change. But when it comes to basketball, for Bill to go, hey, would teams pivot away from this? And I think it's a really good question, but I don't know that we have that answer, because if we see Kyrie Irving get maxed out after this stretch, Like, as bad as I thought the Brooklyn thing would go, it went way worse. As bad as the Ben Simmons thing felt, this is still way below my low expectations. Will the NBA actually get to a point where it was almost like the Washington Commanders now, where they said, we just don't think Kirk Cousins is that good. We're not giving you that money. And if we're going to lose the asset, we lose the asset. We don't see that happen in basketball. Teams will keep a bad asset almost every single time because the bad asset in their calculation is always better than zero asset. So we'll see what Kyrie gets. But if history is our guide, he's going to get every single dollar available to him, even though he's been a bad business partner. And if we actually saw that kind of movement in the NBA where all of a sudden the business approach changed on who they wanted to partner up with, then I'd actually be surprised.